Hello. Why don't you start by introducing yourself, the character you play, and a little about the character?
My name is Matthew Hill, and this is my first year here at the Wagon Wheel. And the nerd, I will be playing Rick Stedman, or the nerd.
And my name is Rob Montgomery. This is my second year here, and my character in the nerd is Axel Hammond, who is the best friend to the protagonist, Willem Covert, who is played by Matthew Janice.
Okay. What are the personalities of your characters? We'll just go left to right each time.
Sure.
Yeah, well, the nerd, Rick, is pretty much what you would expect a nerd to be. He's a little more buffoonish than he is, geeky. So he often is tripping up on his words, he's getting confused a lot, he's not very smart. He really goes off on his own way majority of the time, and he expects others to go with him, but that never happens. And he pretty much is the wrench in everybody's system, yeah.
And Axel is sort of the quick-witted, very dry humor, sarcastic best friend of Willem. So he sort of is facilitating just the flow of the entire evening, or I guess it's more than one evening within the context of the play. But he likes to throw his quippy one-liners in here and there to keep the situation sort of light and injected with a little bit of humor, even if the humor is sometimes rather sarcastic. But he's very, very smart and very calculating, and is always aware of everything that's going on.
With Willem, Matthew Janice being the protagonist, you might say that Rob's character Axel is trying to move him forward in life, and my character Rick is trying to take him backwards or stop him. So we really are the ebb and flow of Willem's life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I'm trying to ask this without giving away too much, but your character is actually a character within a character, or a character playing a character, or...
Well, that is, unfortunately, that is definitely the surprise ending of the play, so if you're watching this, I apologize. Yeah, I guess the cat's out of the bag, so... we wouldn't like to further discuss that, because we hope that when you come see the show, you'll be surprised, so just kind of...
Well, that's kind of vague enough. Yeah. But the character nerd saved the main character. Sorry, I forget the name.
Yeah.
That's why he's coming to visit, right? Explain to why he's coming to, I guess, to visit.
Yeah, so Willem is a really kind-hearted human being, individual. When he was in the Gulf War, he got wounded to such a point that he was kind of immobile and passed out on a field or desert. Excuse me. And Rick Stedman rescued him and saved him. And when he woke up, he had no idea what had happened, but they told him, this man, Rick Stedman, he saved your life. So Willem and Rick started being pen pals. Rick saying, oh my gosh, I owe you my life. Anything you ever need, come to me and I'll give it to you. If you ever need a place to stay, you can stay with me. So then lo and behold, one day, Willem's birthday, Rick shows up and says, hey, I'm here.
And he's not exactly what they expected.
No, not quite. Not at all, really. Yeah.
Okay. So,
from there.
Yeah. So how does your character get along with the nerd then? Is he just...
He sort of tolerates him. And what Matt mentioned earlier was that we're sort of at odds here with Willem. I want to propel him forward and get him to start sort of making choices for himself, to get a little gumption, as we mentioned in the play. And Matt seems to just drag him down and down and down. So a lot of my commentary, a lot of my action is sort of combating Matt and, the nerd, and his sort of ridiculousness and the crazy situations that he gets Willem into.
And it's amazing how the two of us, how rarely we interact without going directly through Willem.
Right.
He'll say one thing to Willem, I'll say another, and they'll be completely contrasting, and Willem, the straight man, is sort of stuck in the middle saying, what on earth do I do with these two complete polar opposite forces?
Right. Sort of like the angel and the devil on either shoulder.
You can imagine who's who.
Now, you mentioned the Gulf War, but I was reading up on this, and this was originally set in 1979, so this is, you guys kind of updated it a little bit?
Yeah, the director, we came in, and the director said, let's modernize it, and we said, yeah, awesome, let's do it. So that's been sort of a strange, fun shift to make. The play, it doesn't, live in the 60s. The language doesn't live in the 60s, so it wasn't difficult to modernize. Or in the 80s,
right.
yeah. Instead of the Vietnam, we have the Gulf. So that sort of is what we're pulling from. That's the only huge shift there's been. Otherwise, it's
little subtle things,
yeah.
cell phones here and there, and just sort of the way the set is set up, I guess, is just more modern. Because we've done so many dated shows. We've done like a 70s show or 80s show with The Wedding Singer, and 9 to 5 was the end of the 70s, and Hello Dolly was like 1890. So we've done like a lot of past period pieces.
Yeah.
And
Shrek was,
right.
early
Whatever.
1300s.
And our director Tony just felt that it would be good to give our audience a little bit of modern flavor,
Which has been fun for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. And you guys can probably relate better to the modern flavor.
Yeah, I mean, it's very farcical. So even though it's modern, it's completely detached from real life, if that makes sense. It's almost as far from life as perhaps Hello Dolly. It is heightened in some ways because of the speech, because of the quickness and the wit. But it's still, character-wise and physically, we don't have to sort of embody any particular style, if that makes sense. But yeah.
Okay. Well, and this is the play of the season. The rest are musicals. So, switching from musicals to the play, is that nice to have that reprieve, or is it a different set of mind, or?
Absolutely, it's definitely a different gear that you have to shift into because the songs and the music are such a powerful force in a musical that they're really responsible for much of the action and much of the drive of the show. With the play, it's all motivated by your characters and whatever actions they're doing, and most of the times those actions are expressed in their words. So we don't get songs, we don't get dances, we have to move the entire action of the show with what we're saying. So it's just a little bit more specific, I think. And generally we'd like to be as specific as we can in a musical as well, but the sort of stereotype is that they're rather broader strokes with musicals, and with the play we have the time, because there's not music and dancing, to really hone in on the specific details of sort of the action and of what interactions are really going on.
Yeah, I completely agree. Tagging on to that, it's very easy to just say there are the songs and there are the scenes, and one goes to the other, and that's pretty much it. When everything is one big scene, you have to find the sections within that go from one to the other, and it can't feel just like flat. We have to find our own highs and lows. And so that's really fun to find those sections and then say, oh, this is that section, and then that goes to this, and that goes to this. And it's really, really fun to play with, because there's so many different ways to look at it.
Absolutely.
Well, there's only 7 characters in the show, right?
Yeah.
Does that make you step it up a little more challenging, or?
Absolutely. I mean, you had a very, very large part. You were Robbie Hart in The Wedding Singer, so you carried a lot of the show itself. Much of the action revolved around you, but what's interesting about this show is that there's kind of like 4 core characters and a few peripheral ones who still are absolutely essential to the action, but they're in and out more often. Mm-hmm. And we're basically on stage for the entire show, so we don't really get a break. You don't get to go off stage and have a drink and sit down and relax. We just always got to be on and always have to be focused. So that is a really interesting challenge, and for me, really exciting, because I've never actually done a play before in my life. So this is my first time doing one. So
And he's doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Those 4 characters really are 4 pillars too. They each hold their own load, and we bounce back from who we're focused on at any given point, and those peripheral characters are definitely doing everything they can to knock us down or to just throw the balance.
Absolutely.
And it's really, really fun to say, okay, now it's Rob's turn. Okay, now it's Willem's turn, or Matthew Janice, or now it's Jen Dow's turn, who plays sort of the female love interest of the show.
Tansy, I think it is.
Tansy's the name, yeah. And the names in the show are really, really fun.
Interesting as well, yeah.
Tansy, Willem, Axel, Waldgrave, or Tiki. Very strange names, but just fun.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Sort of helping set up the peculiarity of the situation, the sort of farcical nature of the entire show. I think the names are very representative of the tone of everything that's going to happen.
Yeah. Also different for this is Tony's directing it instead of Scott.
Right.
So what is it working with a different director from the rest of the season? Or was that kind of easy? Just
Well, 9 to 5, we had Andy Robinson, who was fantastic, and very different from Scott in the sense of he wasn't a choreographer, so he was really only focused on the character work, and then we had a choreographer. So that was fun to just have those two different things. Scott is absolutely fantastic at dividing his brain between, okay, this is when I do the dance and the music, and this is when I do the characters. Yeah. So then all of a sudden it's flipping to Tony, who is like, well, we only have characters, we only have scenes.
Yeah.
Right from the read-through, which we did for the show that we haven't done for any of the other shows because we could and because it was necessary, Tony was saying, okay, this is character-driven, this is exactly what it needs to be in my mind, and we need to open it up to what it's going to be for all of us. So let's explore that as actors, and not as singers or dancers or musical theater students, but as characters in this world. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And we've done plenty of shows here and there and all over the place. So switching from director to director is really kind of part of the deal. Like, you just get used to it. You kind of build a relationship, and you figure out how each other work, and then we can really start this sort of beautiful collaboration that we get whenever we all get in the same room together.
It's one of the most exciting things about theater, meeting the people that you're going to create with and clicking as quickly as possible, as strongly as possible, and then just creating. And that's one of the things that is so challenging in this 10-day process, because we're learning our lines, we're trying to figure out what voices we're going to use, what characters we're creating, let alone what these other 8 people in the room are creating, and how we connect with them, and how we connect with the director, who is the one watching us and helping us in this situation. It's fun, it's a challenge, and it never gets old. No. It's always exciting.
Very rewarding.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before you guys started on this, had you ever heard of The Nerd before? It's been a while since they've done it here at the Wagon Wheel. Was this a show you've heard of before? Or?
I hadn't heard of it until the audition for Wagon Wheel. So when we were preparing for auditions back in March, I think it was, I bought the play and I read up on it just so I would know what was going on to be more prepared for the audition. So I had an idea, but it's absolutely astounding how much more depth you get into actually doing it. Like, you can read a play a million times, you will never know it as well as you will when you're actually performing in it, or directing it, or involved in the play itself when it's on its feet.
Absolutely. I had not heard of The Nerd at all, and sadly, I didn't really do much research before my audition. I found out what the season was about a week before I auditioned. Didn't have enough time to order the play, but I said, oh, a nerd? I love nerds. I've played nerds a lot, so I'll do that. And that ended up going well. I read the play before I came out, after I had received a job, I guess I should say. After I received the contract, I read the play, and I thought, oh, this is hilarious and impossible. There's no way this is going to happen. There's absolutely no way. I read it, I said, this is too difficult to do in 10 days. These characters are too extreme. And somehow, lo and behold, we've sort of figured it out. Yeah, sort of. I'm sure we'll get closer as the show goes on.
Yeah.